disaster strikes, you'll be on your own. David Lean, Taranaki Civil Defence Controller, has seen firsthand what happens in an emergency.
You'll never know when disaster strikes. Storms, earthquakes, tornadoes and floods, they'll be the last thing on your mind. I know from personal experience that unless you prepare yourself for a disaster, you'll get caught out every time.
During a civil defence disaster, the Taranaki Emergency Management Operations Centre in New Plymouth immediately turns into a well-oiled machine. Our role is to coordinate the emergency response. We're there to organise and combine resources to assist rescue and recovery, to help communities get back on their feet as soon as possible. When a natural disaster does strike, you need to be ready, at home and at work. In July 2007, the coastal town of Ohakura was ravaged by 7 tornadoes that tore in off the Tasman Sea. To this day, Robin Lander, the head teacher at Ohakura Kindergarten, is thankful that those tornadoes struck in the holidays, where there were no children or teachers on the premises.
These doors were shattered and all of the windows along this side of the building were broken, and these veranda poles were just snapped off halfway. As soon as it was daylight, I drove down here and I wasn't prepared for the sight that I saw. It was absolute devastation and looking like there had been a bomb dropped in the kindergarten grounds. All over the playground there was rubbish. The neighbour's microwave was just sitting here and their air conditioning unit, and over here a little bit was a great big tree which we still don't know whose place it had come from, pulled out by its roots, and that was just sitting here. It was a tragedy because of possessions, but it could have been a real tragedy if children had been here, and it was just so fortunate that it was the school holidays. So there's no doubt in my mind that with the devastation that I saw, that it would have been a tragedy, that lives would have been lost.
In June 2007, floodwaters swept through animal cages in an exercise yard at Burgess Hill Pet Motel near New Plymouth, destroying cages and leaving 20 dogs and 4 cats treading water.
So what I actually initially saw was, I walked up here, the water started just rushing through. And as I say, from going from your ankle to your knee and you're going, I've got to go and get the power, I've got to turn the power off. And it all occurred so quickly. That was just like, it's not going to stay in here, it's going to flow out, and it shot through the garage.
We actually had a weather bomb that was coming through Inglewood and out to Ohakura. I'd finished my kennel work for the morning, and I have a project vehicle I was working on, so I was into the garage to get started on that.
Had tuba 2 framing over tin, and it just blew that out, and it came out through this panel, so we were sort of attacked from 2 points.
It was just a burst of water. In fact, there was 2 points that we'll see later that they actually came through, and just to see it push walls out is amazing. And as I say, the thing was to get the animals out.
Thankfully, there was no loss of human or animal life in these natural disasters. Grant's neighbours came to his aid, and he had an evacuation plan.
Make sure that you're shut down, you have people that can be on standby, and that's what we have in place. Again, and you've just got to really sit tight. If something really bad happens, you've got to get out quickly. So we have a setup where there's vehicles and we've got animals in. You just bang them into the cages, get them into the vehicle and go, and call on your help.
So we have supplies at kindergarten, we have food supplies, and we have first aid supplies and blankets and all sorts, and things that we'd need, radios and candles and all first aid supplies. So if the parents are not here, that we can just manage with the children. And if the kindergarten is too bad to stay in, we will go to the Civil Defence assembly point, which is around Owakura Hall. After the tornado, I realised if you're not prepared, you are in trouble, and for a little bit of planning now, it's worth it.
The reality is that in a civil defence disaster, you could be completely cut off. No electricity, no food, no water, and no phones to call for help, as we have seen in the 2011 Christchurch earthquake.
I've never been so scared in my life. I thought I was going to die. I think it's always good to have an emergency plan in place because you never know what's going to happen. We just didn't know it was going to happen. We had no warning, absolutely no warning at all. I'd already packed my emergency bag. That was already underneath my bed. But after the September one, I actually didn't think that we'd have another big one, to be honest. So yeah, I probably wasn't prepared.
Also, you may not be able to leave your home or street because power lines are down or your access is blocked. There's a high chance you'll have to stay put and rely on yourself and your neighbours to get through.
When disaster strikes, you need to be able to look after yourself for up to 3 days, and there's good reason for that. Civil Defence Emergency Management prioritises the response. The first priorities are always the safety of the responders and saving lives. This means that you might not be anywhere near the top of the priority list, and believe me, if your life isn't at risk, there could be a long wait before someone gets to you. A disaster affects the responders as well as the community. This means the people you usually rely on might not be there or might take longer to get to you. When disaster strikes, you can help the whole community by being able to look after yourself. Being prepared means Civil Defence Emergency Management can focus on those who have been most badly affected. It's your responsibility to look after you and your loved ones. Everyone thinks it won't happen to me, but you don't know what's round the corner. Don't get caught out, be the author of your own destiny.
Your survival is in your hands.